India's global capability centers have evolved from traditional support functions into strategic command centers, driving innovation, AI development, and enterprise-wide transformation for global organizations. As of 2024, India is home to 1,700 GCCs, employing 1.9 million professionals and generating over $64.6 billion in annual revenue. With projections reaching 2,500 centers and over $99 billion by 2030, the question is no longer if AI will be scaled, but how.
In this rapidly evolving landscape of AI disruption, adoption, and we're talking about scaling, it is only as effective as the change that supports it. And that's what we're going to discuss a lot more in this panel. Making change structured, people-centered, and obviously it's more critical than ever. Moderating this session, I have Krzysztof. Can we have a round of applause for Krzysztof, who's CEO of Silfra Consulting, Prosci's partner in Central Eastern Europe, and someone I know for sure who's been leading change before ChatGPT even became a buzzword, right? He's worked on over 100 plus transformations and projects across several industries and continents, and regularly advises leadership on how to navigate the people side of change. Marg Business Transformation, like Silfra, are part of the global affiliate network with Prosci, which means change isn't just local. With Prosci's network, we can go global. And that's the power that we bring as part of Prosci and being GAN partners, right? It can be done by anyone, anywhere, at any point in time. Please do welcome Krzysztof on stage.
Also,
hello, everyone.
Welcome all our panelists for the GCC GBS Industry Talk. First up, we have Gurmeet Singh Sran, GBO Head, Change, Transformation and Continuous Improvement at Diageo. Kaushik Das, VP, Managing Director, Bangalore, JC Penney, India. Let's keep the applause going, please, as the panelists make their way up. Ranan Bhattacharya, Head of Intelligent Automation at Shell. And finally, Vani Gopalan, Senior Director of Information Technology, AstraZeneca. A warm welcome to all our panelists. We're extremely excited for the insights, experiences, and stories you'll be bringing to this important conversation. Remember, there is a QR code on the page designated for panel 2 for you to ask us questions and engage with us throughout the conversation.
Krzysztof, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Before we start, I wanted to ask if there are any fans of Salman Khan here in the room. Are there any? Yes or not? Probably yes. Probably yes. Do you know which of his most famous movies was taken in Poland? Any guess? It was Kick. And he was performing some of the dangerous stunt scenes by himself, jumping from the bridge, for example, or helicopter jump scenes. So we have some links between India and Poland, not only business-wise, but today we focus on the business, of course. And not only GBS and GCC industry is so important, as our dear MCs just mentioned, but also we are both top locations for the world. India number 1, Poland is between number 1, 2, or 3, depending on the category. So the topic is even more important, I believe, for our economies. My first question would be to all of you. And my challenge, by the way, is to pack such a heavy experience of our panelists into 45 plus 15 minutes of Q&A format. But yes, let's start with how do your organizations use AI? Gurmeet, if I may ask you.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Thank you to Mark for inviting me to be part of this particular panel. So in Diageo, what we've done is we've kind of deployed ChatGPT, and it's been deployed in a very secure in-house, in-premise environment on Azure, and it's called Diageo GPT, right? And we've done some very interesting, not just proof of concepts, but have delivered products. And one of them, which is one of my favorites, is called What's Your Cocktail, right? It's targeted at our consumers, right? Which allows you to pair your cocktails with the food. It suggests what kind of food you should be pairing your cocktails with, right? And of course, this is so very, very important in the industry that we play, which is an alcohol beverages industry. And then that industry is undergoing a lot of change in itself. A lot of people are shifting to zero alcohol products, and people are moving to ready-to-drink kind of products, right? So it becomes very, very pertinent to get a sense of what the consumers are looking at and how they are changing their behaviors and their consumption patterns. So this one has been a very, very interesting, deployment of a generative AI platform that allows the consumers to select the foods that they should pair with their cocktails.
I feel interested already. Thank you very much. So please, let's move on, Kaushik.
Thanks, Krzysztof. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here, excited to share this stage. Look, like probably each one of us here, approach that we have, the lens that we have on AI is excited but cautious. And I think that's how we're approaching it. But again, being a fashion and accessory retailer for one of America's most favorite brands, it's probably gold mine of how we select use cases for ourselves. One of the areas are our virtual try-ons, our makeup, suite that we have for our customers to come in and try on various kinds of makeup has been around for some time. So there's a ton of augmented reality that goes in there. But more importantly, sometimes there is a ton of stuff that goes behind the scenes on the operational space on how do we make more data-driven decision in real time. And there are a lot of those, if not the entire part of it, but bits and pieces of the LLMs have been working pretty much behind the scenes. Our distribution network, our supply chain, and that gets focused more with the ongoing tariff war. I think all of these are real-life scenarios. So there are things which are more customer-focused in our try-ons, in our makeup space, in our beauty space, but definitely there is a ton more happening behind the scenes that kind of keeps the whole engine, whole organization propelling.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. We are just at the juncture of good morning and afternoon, and lovely to be in this same stage with so many great people. And thanks, Marg and Prosci, for hosting this lovely event. So I'm part of a energy industry, which is like AI going through a huge transformation. And the need of the speed for this transformation is so huge that it's humanly impossible to scale up. And that's why we are heavily dependent on technology. And when we were looking for options in all our surroundings, suddenly AI came into picture. And definitely, I have to say that there is a huge contribution of AI at present in our industry, which is helping us to improve areas where we don't have time to learn. Because we have been a hydrocarbon company, we are moving towards being a molecule company. So it's a huge transformation. You can understand this company earlier used to be run by the chemical engineers and the PhDs of geophysics, and now it's going to be driven by the electronics and the electrical people. So it's a huge transformation. We don't have much time to really learn and scale up. So technologies like AI is definitely giving us huge to move fast.
Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here today. And also, it's such an honor sharing the stage with such great experts. So my perspective, I think AI is transformative. And from GCC perspective, from my organization perspective, it is imperative from the leadership that we are embracing AI and no two ways about it. And that is also our bold ambition 2030 as well. That is our IT ambition as well. And the way it is cascaded and the communication is instilled with various groups within the organization is just amazing. The change management practices that we're talking about, the way we are combining change management aspects within our AI transformation is something that is immense. We are yet to witness the success, but AI is everywhere in our organization, be it co-piloting in the business transformation, it could be as simple as writing an email. It could be as complex as how do you get into simplifying those steps in drug discovery, like understanding the lead time and reducing the lead time, and much more to go. So I'm quite excited to be part of this journey and to share a lot with you all this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So looks like you live and breathe with AI. and your teams also live and breathe with that, what makes a difference between just a good pilot and a good start of AI solution implementation, whichever type of AI it is, versus great, successful, sustainable solution? Whoever would like to start, please share your opinions. And
I'll start off. Great question. And I think, as much as it seems that it's such a small difference between good and great, I think it all boils down to the intent and how we are keeping it closely aligned for an organization, for the ecosystem, and how it's helping, kind of taking our strategy forward. As close it's aligned to the strategy, as thoughtful we are in choosing our use cases, being more determined with our data. I think that's probably makes, the small things makes huge difference.
Gurmeet?
Yeah, I think
Works. We just need to keep it close to.
I switched it off. So, see, I think the companies that are able to do a much better job on deploying AI is basically more focused on what is the business case? What is the impact that I'm looking to drive for the business, right? And then largely you should not pivot only to say what efficiency is going to give this to me. Right? Efficiency is a natural outcome that will happen, right? What is more important is to say what business value can I generate through these POCs, these pilots, this adoption, or this model that I'll deploy, right? And that's where it should focus on. And to Simmons-Sinek circle, why is very important. Then what do you want to achieve out of it? And then how will you achieve out of it? Will evolve automatically, right? So business value is most important. Then I think in my previous organization, we had these two metrics that we used to measure. What is the effort it takes you to serve your customer? And what is the effort it takes your employees to serve the customer? Right? If you keep these two factors and these two metrics in perspective, and then look at how can you use AI to enhance the value for your customers, for them to work with you as an organization, your partners to work with your organization seamlessly, and how do you enable your employees to serve your customers, partners easily, is where you should pivot. And they will give you an idea of the value that you want to chase, and then deploy AI in a very, very thoughtful fashion, in a very structured way where you will get the ROI. It will not be something that you are experimenting with without having visibility to the end outcome that you're trying to generate.
So it's a very strategic perspective in both of your cases and very pragmatic. How is it happening in Astra and in Shell?
Yeah, so in my perspective, great AI implementation is something where you think or you look beyond the technology initiative, right? You look at how can you enable business outcome, number one. Number two, the narrative itself is like, instead of just thinking, where can I implement AI, where all I can today, because that's the buzzword. So everyone is looking at in a very short-sighted way as to where all can I implement AI. Instead, think about what are the business challenges this AI can resolve, and how do I partner with the business teams? We are never a siloed team like a technology and a business. I think it's time that we partner. We have a very solid partnership with the business organization and build the solution together. That looks like a great AI implementation for me.
Thank you very much.
To start on a lighter note, today morning when I started, the map showed 50 minutes to this location. By the time I reached, crossed 1.5 hours. So it's a good AI, not a great AI. Coming to the reality of the organizations, I think a good AI is which is helping us improving efficiency and the productivity, like copilots. These are not great. The great AIs are one which is directly or indirectly going to impact the bottom line or the top line end of the day. Right.
Thank you very much. So we are talking, we should be mindful that we are talking about large-scale organizations and global organizations. So to achieve such results and to make them sustainable, it's making for GBS and GCC even a bigger challenge. So now I would like to come to the point of scaling up AI. And I would kindly ask you, Kaushik, to start referring to this, because one thing is to make a pilot in one location, one function, one process. The other thing is to move it to 20 geographies, 50 geographies. And also, we really need to be mindful that there are silos in the organization, but also we have organization layers. So how to get alignment between leaders, people managers, and employees. So how can you cope for this type of complexity with scaling up AI?
Sure. Thanks, Krzysztof. And great question. Let's unpack because there are quite a few dimensions to it, right? One is we are talking maybe, different parts of an organization. Then we are talking possibly multiple geographies. Then possibly we are talking, different aspects of our strategies kind of all coming together. And then over on top of that, we are layering in something as new, but as potent as AI. So I think we got to kind of look at it through few angles, quite a few angles. And I think one very elementary, I was pretty brief in my previous one, is how do we stick to the basics? So there is a part which is more on the AI and the tooling part of it, like what solution we bring. And then this huge part, which is probably sometimes we know but not ignored, but this is huge and massive part of change management, how we take it up. And when we talk about scale, it's important to first build the initial grains right. This is where we're talking about the MVPs, our prototypes. That part has to be good. When we are solutioning, the solution itself does need to have the quality, the potency of that. It can be scaled to a larger extent, and for that, it's very important that it kind of connects to what we are trying to achieve as an organization. Throw in this the whole concept of GCC or GBS, as we call it, right? That there is one home location and then there are multiple locations. So all sorts of dynamics thrown in. It has to be that everyone's climbing the same mountain. So it has to be solving a real need, a strategic priority for the organization. And for me, that's probably number one checkbox. The second one that comes in is how are we being more deliberated in choosing the use cases. And all of these are taking us to a point where the solution is getting refined. We could use it, as I mentioned, we could use it for our more front-ending customer-facing solutions or to improve the way we work. It could be our operational efficiency. It could be bringing into the, our data analytics, or it could be improving the way we develop softwares. Either way, I think it has to be something that is really taking us further, in an accelerated way to where our strategic priorities. The third part, of course, is the data, and we all know that the data has to be clean. It has to be retrievable and all of that stuff. The ethics and the compliance, all of these gives us a solution that now we feel, yes, it's good. And if we are doing it in one area of the business or one team or one department or one geography, now let's see if we can, scale it up, right? But the challenge is in many organizations, we have this realization only we have the solution. So for a scale, you have to have the fabrics built in long before. If you think that this is a solution, I would want to use it, you have to think of, okay, there are my 5 geographies and I have to layer in the data privacy aspect of all of these at the onset itself. So there has to be a lot more thoughtfulness than just going out and doing an MVP or doing a prototype. And this is where the other part of it, the change management, has to be built in at the onset as one of the building blocks of the solution as we start looking at it. How are we going to use it? Who are the customers? And look, you will not hear something very different from each one of us or, folks ahead of us or folks, who's coming after us, because it's very, very necessary and very elementary that how is it going to help us take it from one place to multiple places and what problems it is solving. So, you have to have the consensus, the compliance, the commitment, whatever you call it, but buy-in of everybody in the organization. People have to understand that if this solution is coming in at this scale, this is how it's going to change the way I work. This is how it's going to change the way we work. And then, as we bridge the gap between I to we, I think we have covered that scale part of it.
When I'm listening to what you say, looks like you mentioned several categories of risks related to the scale, related to alignment, related to the solution. So looks like change management is a bit also one category of risks.
See, it is, if we do not consider that as a very essential element of all of this, it is a risk. And I think I'm glad that, each one of us or every organization today, we do understand that as much as it is important to have the solution on the table, it is more important to have the solution scale up or, spread across. And there is a inherent need for change management in all aspects, right? And especially when you put in the lens of a GCC slash GBS, the change management of that is, the huge part of that is stakeholder management. So how do you have everyone across different teams? Because it's not just one solution impacting one team, it radiates across the entire organization. I'm making a change in the way I capture data, kind of rolls up to what he was saying, how it impacts my top line and bottom line. How am I looking at it? How the metrics are being defined, how we are rolling it up versus how we're interpreting it. I think it's got kind of a mammoth interpretation. So we have to build in change management at the core of it, so that we know here are the areas where I have to be mindful as I design it at the design phase. And of course, then comes the entire 9 yards.
Yeah, if I can add to that, see, GBCs typically will have centers across the globe, right? Serving various market regions and based on how you have constructed your service delivery, right? And now sometimes, if I were to give you a classic example, if you were to optimize order to cash and bring in, say, AI into the play to optimize your order to cash, you might be serving through various centers for Latin America, North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, right? And if you were to do these pilots in a discrete fashion in each region, it might not give you the scale that you really need from AI ROI perspective, right? And the biggest challenge today, which I see in a lot of organizations, is everybody wants to be the champion. He wants to show that I have done this in my process, my geography, my region, right? And sometimes the previous panel was discussing this particular fact, right? How do you bring the ROI and the investment needed, and whose investment is more important than the others, right? And that's where if you were to increase the cross-locational, cross-functional collaboration partnerships, I think the scale at which you can deploy AI and then leverage the ROI is going to scale up significantly. And that's the scale up where the change on generating that collaboration, generating that partnership plays a very effective role right from the top leadership. Also at a level where people at managerial levels who manage those processes need to understand the interdependencies on the end-to-end value stream across geographies and then see where can I scale this better.
We are slowly navigating towards leadership topic, but still I would like to know, before we go there, I would like to know the perspective of you, Vani, and you, Ranan, on this scaling up.
Sure. So in my perspective, I think there's a quite interesting challenge to have when we talk about GCCs and GBS and things, is accountability management. Like, how do you manage accountability when there is a matrix organization structure built? When you talk about 3-in-a-box model, like you have the center of excellence or the GCCs in India or somewhere else across the globe, and then you also have your other teams that is, spread globally. Because sometimes you may also have conflicting roles and responsibilities, or rather overlapping roles and responsibility. So there, everyone wants to be part of the story. Everyone wants to own things, as in be responsible, but then who takes the accountability if there is a failure, if there's something goes wrong? I think that definition is very crucial. As leaders in the GCC, what I suggest is managing that communication becomes super essential and critical. Sometimes we struggle and we have to accept the fact that, okay, so how will I be perceived if I go ahead and say that this is what my team is failing? So are we acting as those ambassadors of change, number one, or and are we communicating or articulating the whys properly, like both to the top level as well as the people below us, like speaking up, like Krish mentioned. So how comfortable are we as leaders? And the next thing is, are we developing future leaders who can really stand up and say that, hey, we are ready as a GCC, not only as a delivery organization, but someone who can really add value and co-create with you, right? So that is the question that all of us have to ask ourselves, because I think in some of the places we are not ready yet. And we are still making those, baby steps to take on. And that would be my take.
Thank you very much, Vani. Well,
Great points from Gurmeet, Kaushik, and Vani. So I want to add just two things which I personally am seeing where the biggest requirement of the change management lies today. So the number one is there's a huge change in the way we have been using technology, because we are used to see technology in a very deterministic way. technology so far have been built to serve one purpose. There was a use case, we developed one, it always gives one output. And that's how the whole system works today. And the world where we are moving towards is probabilistic in nature. So that's a huge mental shift for everyone. Today, even to do a simple user acceptance testing, business is clueless that how I'm going to do this testing, because earlier there was only one answer which is supposed to come. So this is a huge change which is making us think that how do we handle that? And the second part I would say is that so far, even today, I think IT people are thinking that AI is our property. AI is our world. We govern this. We monitor this. Business has to come to us to get the things delivered. But the world where we are moving towards, business has access to the same AI. Business is driving the AI. So as an IT leader or as IT leaders, we should come out of the mindset, which also requires a huge change management, that we will no longer be the proprietor of AI. We'll have to provide a governance layer. We'll have to provide a platform where business can drive their own innovation.
Thank you very much. So looks like we are towards around change management, around leadership alignment, but also communication of the why, but also creating and co-creating the solutions, plus also making everyone in the organization accountable for the results, not only tech being owners of those results. So looks like we are navigating slowly but surely towards leadership. So I wanted to ask you, Vani, just all of you, but please start from you. What is your perspective on leadership role and the change leadership role in AI implementation success? When we observe some large-scale data, there is a report from 2025 that says more or less 11% globally is the workload grow for GBSs, GCCs. And the budgets will only grow by 7%. So definitely it's 4% at least gap that we have for productivity and efficiency. Plus, most of leaders see AI as the way to fill the gap. But do they really see AI as the solution solely, or they acknowledge enough the role of their involvement and their change leadership in this? And please also tell a few words about how you see this change leadership. What does it mean to your organizations? What works and what maybe could work better?
Sure, that's a great question. And I'm very passionate about the topic as well, like how leadership can embrace and bring the strategic narrative or perspective into the organization when everyone is talking about AI as a technology initiative, right? And the first thing is, let's stop saying that AI is a technology initiative. That's number one. Number two, this is an organizational-wide change. I think as leaders, first, we have to embrace that very well. Like, this is an organization-wide change. And second, how am I articulating it? Articulating the why for this change at all levels. And at all levels, the communication need not be same, because everyone is looking at what is in it for me at various levels. Your top management, the key sponsors, and the people below you, your managers, change leaders, ambassadors of change, and the people who are the workforce. So if we are not keeping people aligned and tying back the strategy to the company's vision, I think we fail there itself. And it could be as simple as setting a bold ambition 2030 for your organization, where you're saying that you are going to deliver medicines at a much faster and cheaper rate to the patients. Full stop. So are we in a position to articulate the vision to our employees in a way where they understand what it is and what is in it for them, and how can they contribute? That's number one. Number two, are you that ambassador of change? Because what I say is, words can lie, but your actions don't. So are people really seeing you as that ambassador of change through your body language? Since morning, Arun has been saying smile. So if we don't smile, I don't think you're going to get the response back, right? The smile. And it doesn't cost anything just to smile. So are we actually taking our people along? Like people always see leaders as shepherd, right? So where are we taking our sheep? Are we leaving them just on their own? Or are we taking them into this transformational journey? So that's the question I need to ask myself first before pointing my finger to somebody else. So that's secondary. And the third thing is, everyone is talking about AI. So are we building that governance and ethics culture in the organization? That's another part. I think that's a big topic to talk about, right? And then, are we failing fast and creating a culture of experiential learning? Because this is new for everyone. Like in the previous panel, everyone spoke about how apprehension is coming into play. People are thinking about, what if I don't learn? 25 years of experience, it's fine even if I don't learn. So are we deeply listening to those people and understanding where they're coming from and telling them what is in it for them? Yeah. And celebrating those quick wins. Because all that people look for is there an ear to listen to me and acknowledge something which nobody has acknowledged so far? So as leaders, are we taking that effort? Because change is nothing but the people side of it. When we talk so much about it, why are we putting our people at the last versus technology at the first? So that would be my say when we talk about how do we embrace, when these things are clear, I think you can just guarantee success and whatever transformation you want to bring in, with, of course, some lessons learned.
Thank you, Vani. Looks like it's just a sneak peek, but you opened so many topics that probably other colleagues would be happy to comment on.
I'd like to make a brief comment that this is one of the transformation where the I know all ego of the leaders are hurt big time. Because this is an exercise where most of the leaders are not in a position to say that, I know, I don't need to learn. So this is bringing every person in the organization into a state where everybody is vulnerable. And that is in a way, it's a very good place to be in, because that immediately improves your chance of success. Because the first problem in achieving success is the denial. So in this particular case, the proportion of the denial is much lesser because it's a new world. It's like the first wave of COVID. We don't know much. We are wearing masks. We are washing our hand 100 times. We are skeptical in everything. We are afraid all day. And then slowly wave 2, wave 3 came and we started feeling, okay, we'll not die. And similarly, we are in the phase 1 of the AI COVID, where there are a lot of skepticism, a lot of fear, a lot of marketing gimmicks, a lot of hypes. And slowly we'll be moving towards the phase 2 and phase 3. And that can only happen through the proper change management. And as I started, that in this particular case, the beauty is that even the leaders are vulnerable. And the I know all syndrome, which usually is the first blocker for change management, is better handled this time.
Love that. My takeaway from the session, AI COVID, I'll definitely, unless it's patent, right? But, it's a huge responsibility when we bring the role of a leader in the organization and navigating this whole thing, as he rightly mentioned. And there's a ton of that is unknown to us. We're just simply reading about it, knowing about it, right? I'll add 2 points. One, as a leader, I think it's very important to ensure that each one in the organization at a grassroots level completely understands the why part of it. And it's the responsibility. It's the accountability, as Vani was mentioning in the previous panel. I think either Amit or Shatuki mentioned that, to my developer, my analyst, my associate, do they know how it's going to change their work day in and day out? I'm working on a fragmented piece of a bigger, work stream, right? How does it change my work? How should I feel about it? Should I be excited? Should I be scared? Do I know what to do? I think these are the things that's in front of, the folks who are probably at the grassroots of the organization. And as a leader, it's very important to consistently and continuously keep communicating the change, that what's happening and what's the outcome of it. That's number one. The second responsibility of a leader also is to help the teams navigate. If, I'm not removing the roadblock, the challenges, and helping my teams, tackle the dynamics of a big organization, big global organization of, here is a solution with the IT and here is an idea with the business, but then the data guys want this and here are the gatekeepers. So I think there are a tremendous amount of, dynamics that go on. And as a leader, with the vantage point the leader has in the organization, it is the responsibility of the leader to help the teams navigate and bring it and converge it to a single point.
I'm just looking forward to Gurmeet's case, but it's really, these are strong statements. And of course, I have a reflection now before I pass the floor to you, Gurmeet, that if we consider ourselves sometimes as project managers for such initiatives and tech people, maybe there is a question in our minds how we can leverage this leadership, because the distance between us, what we are doing on everyday basis, and leaders may seem to be so big. So that's my first reflection that I wanted to share with you, not to conclude, but it's really impressive what you mentioned. So Gurmeet, please.
Yeah, I think my perspective is, are you the leader who defines the strategy, the vision, provides the resources, provides the governance, or are you a leader who does lessons learned at the end of every project and then try and put the blame on someone to say why this failed, what we could have done differently, right? And that's what happens in a lot of places, right? Most of us go from project to project based on lessons learned, but I never see the lessons learned getting implemented in the next project. That's a significant change management that needs to happen in our mindsets on how do we approach project plan. The second thing, a lot of times I've had this conversation to say, oh, project management, change management, why do you need people to be trained, certified? People can learn this and do this. This is no rocket science. And my retort or my pushback has been, will you board a plane where somebody is flying the plane who's not a certified pilot? Would you lie on an operating table where the doctor is not certified, right? So these certifications, these frameworks are important for you to do project management, change management in a very structured fashion. And that's the change that I've been at least trying to drive with my leaders to say, don't come to me and tell me that this team or this skill, this competency is acquired through only doing projects in change management. My point is, have you got certified or not? And that's something which I've driven in my team over the last 2 years to say everybody got to get project PMP certified, everybody got to get Prosci change certified, right? That's so very important.
Thank you very much. Again, I think it would be too much from my side if I try to summarize all those things with one sentence. But I'm just thinking that maybe our job as project managers and project people is to pay attention to the leaders, to those things. Because maybe our job is not to change them, but help them to get activated in the moments we need them most for the why, we need them most for what's in it for me, we need them most for the people to see the role modeling, and we need to make them enablers. Because I think we all know that leaders are so busy. You are so busy too. We are all busy. That's why maybe we as change practitioners or project practitioners should find our ways how to activate those leaders when we need them most. But still a great topic, and I think a lot of considerations we may have for another hour or so. Before we move to another topic, I wanted to remind to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, that you can ask questions. There is a QR code in the booklet of the conference, so please go there if you have any questions. And please remember to type your email address at the beginning of the question, so that even if we don't answer it now, we can come back to you and answer it, so that you don't remain without your important questions unanswered. So now it's time to, let's say, maybe move to something that would enable GBS to build sustainable changes. And looks like what you mentioned about AI, it's like it will not stop. So it will rather accelerate. So we'll have more projects, more initiatives. So to some extent, GBS and GCCs need to be a kind of a factory of changes. So how to build this factory? And I'm looking at you, Gurmeet, first to note to that. How to build this structured change management muscle in the organization so that those AI implementations are effective now and are sustainable for the future in various locations, in various geographies, various business units.
See, I'll pivot. I'm a change, transformation, Six Sigma guy through my career over the last 20 years. And I think frameworks, methodologies play a very critical role to do things in a structured way. So even when you're looking at deploying AI across multiple geographies, processes, value streams, right? First thing is, have you pivoted on the Prosci framework, which says define success, define impact, define approach, right? you can't jump to defining approach without knowing what the success looks like to me, and then what is the impact that I'm going to chase through this, and then what my approach should. Do this first. Spend time. Go slow to move fast. Chances are when you try to move fast, you will end up and you'll have to retrace steps back to point number one where you started, right? So you don't want to get into that trap. So move slow to move fast by doing this, defining success, defining impact, defining approach. The next thing is get your change management team to do an ADKAR analysis. This is a change that has issues with awareness, right from leadership to the lowest person on the ground, to really understand what AI means today and for the future. Right? I like that. So that's
Glasses. I still see something.
right. Then desire. Now, everybody across the organization from top to bottom are at a different levels of desire, right? Somebody who's already on the verge of retirement, sometimes I find myself challenged to say, am I really want to be in center of this? Should I be pushing this as much as somebody else should be who's much younger than pushing this? So desire is another very important aspect. And if you haven't mapped desire across the various levels within the organization, chances are you're missing out a big understanding of what change does this require. Then knowledge, of course, you need to provide people the training and the know-how that is very, very important to lead this journey. Like I, with my team, invested in a very high cost training at IIM Bangalore to get them all trained on what AI means, right? From the basics at a theoretical level to a concept to the implementation level. I had a pushback to say, why are you investing this money? We will get this training done over a period of time. I said, no, I'm not going to start without getting people trained first to understand what it means, right? And then, of course, ability. You have to make sure that you are continuously upskilling your people on their skills, competencies, and making them able to absorb this change, face this change, take this change forward. And of course, reinforcement. If you don't do reinforcement, chances are you will not end up doing a sustainable change. It will be a change that will fizzle out very soon. And as we saw, the fatigue and then the overwhelmness of being there, done that, comes much sooner, and then you end up being frustrated with it rather than being successful at it. So my view, use Prosci's change framework to understand the change in a structured fashion and then apply the learnings from there to manage the change.
I was prepared for this statement, Gurmeet, luckily with those ADKAR glasses, which means, no, but this is just the metaphor of ability to look through the glasses through the perspective of some approach. And of course, we can say there are various approaches, and we can say that it's good to be methodology agnostic, but still I share the same thought with you. Since I started using this methodology, my life became easier because it's also common language. And we were just discussing before the panel that being in India, if you don't have common language, is quite challenging to communicate with people. So even if you speak 5 of the 14 official languages, it might not be enough everywhere in this country. So that's why any common language that we can build around change management, that would be really helpful. Thank you very much, Gurmeet. I'm also interested in other colleagues, how you build this change management muscle in your organizations.
I'll add in, of course, the framework, and as Gurmeet mentioned, it really helps across through the entire journey and is kind of the central lane, the line that keeps you kind of, pivoted out there. And I'll go back to my, initial comments on stakeholders. It's very important in the early planning phase to understand who are on the greener side, who are on the red side, and who are the fence sitters, not just at a leadership level, but at across the breadth and depth of the organization, because that gives me not only, the areas where I got to focus, where I have to re-articulate the why, to what extent, but also, at a granular level, how do I take my measures and my ROI story back to those folks and make them, make the greens more greener, make the reds move, make the fence sitters jump on the greener side. I think that sort of initial planning, along with the other sets of planning, it's just not like one component, right? But that element of planning at a central level as we embark on this journey, not just for one project or one program, but as an organization, I think that should be a part of an enterprise strategic priority.
Thank you very much. So, in other words, you say it's good to use some repeatable practices. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest differences what we see today is that changes are more frequent, because earlier change initiative used to be like for 2 to 3 years. So there used to be like a goal for 2 to 3 years, and we used to initiate a change process which would yield the result in 2 to 3 years down the line. But now, if you look into any organization, changes are like of a much smaller cycle, because you really cannot wait for 2 years, because by that time the world might change and the expectations might change by that time. So I think the whole change management process, the way we used to see it, say like when agile transformation came, or say like the continuous improvement cycles came and all this, that used to be all more long-term transformation compared to what we are seeing today. There is a need of like much shorter term. To give you an example is like 10, 15 years back, the GCCs which were set up, the key intent of setting up GCC was to have end-to-end technology center of excellences in India. But today, if you see the ones which are coming up in the last 1 or 2 years, they are very focused on innovation and modernization. So the key goal of getting the benefit out of the GCCs are more focused on the areas where the most of the ROIs are centered. And that gives us more reason that why we have to be equipped to understand that in the first hand. Because if you look into the mass, mostly the people, those who are on the ground, they are engineers. And these engineers do not really resonate to the need of the change, which is they are driven by the businesses or the external situations and the scenarios. So having that change management process embedded on a day-to-day journey, it's no more an initiative. It's now a part which is like your day-to-day job. It's like it has to be part of the DNA of everyone. So like 20 years back, we used to say there are needs of agile coaches. And today we are in a state where like everybody in the organization should know agile. Everybody in the organization should understand what is agility. And similar way, the change management in these GCCs, which are coming up in the last 1 or 2 years, and what we'll see more in the coming 5 to 10 years, these request much faster changes, much faster reaction. And that's why the change processes, the change initiatives, what are going to come up, what is the need of the hour, is to have that embedded where the purpose is explained on a day-to-day basis, and that purpose might keep changing in every 3 months, every 6 months, and we should not create another change drive together. So it's like a product roadmap. Your change roadmap should be like a product.
Again, constant work, repeatability, building some patterns, but adjusted to the mindset of people and skill set of people you have. Thank you very much. Vani, if you can close this loop.
Well, it was amazing listening to the co-panelists and about the change management and what it can bring in, right? As a change practitioner myself, I felt it was such a treat to hear all the good things that the change does. But the few things to add here is, I think the caution statement here is, if you think that your projects or your business transformation programs are always going in a reactive mode, I think that's a very good cue for you to implement or bring in change management. Because where there is change management, there cannot be reactiveness. There can only be proactiveness. So much of proactiveness. And I can tell you, because not only in the business transformation journey, but even in your personal lives, when you use the ADCOM model, I use it firsthand for my driving classes. People, force me, push me hard, saying like, go learning, this is the survival skill that you need to have, but I never understood the value of it. And I kind of went and registered myself in the driving school at least thrice. And procrastination hit, or very reactive behavior. But then once I genuinely started applying the ADCOM model, where I created that interest for myself, awareness, desire is crucial. And that is what sometimes as leaders, we fail to instill in our organization. And the best part about change management is you can hold anybody accountable, which otherwise you cannot. Like the sponsors. Is it easy for anybody to hold the sponsors accountable? Theoretically, yes, but not in practical life. But with change management practices and framework, we can make the sponsors very accountable, saying like, you need to drive, this is the message that you need to drive, which I cannot do. People are not going to listen to me. You have the preferred senders group where people will listen only to them. So that is, and the sponsor should be somebody who is present and be actively involved in all phases of change. And another thing, very beautiful thing is resistance to change. There are so many persistent resistance that we encounter in our business transformation journey or AI journey. But what do we do about it? Either we go silent or we feel that, oh, I've said this, it's not my job to correct it. But with proper change management intervention, there is 100% possibility that we can make the right people accountable and identify those initial people who are resisting for change and how can they be coached as a framework. Communication is the best part that I love about, because this methodology teaches you, trains you, guides you, coaches you, and nurtures you in how do you communicate at various levels. And this also develops you as a storyteller. So how wonderful is that? And I have seen this happen throughout my journey with Prosci and change management. And today I can very proudly say that the previous organization that I worked for has a change management team or a tower. And the current organization also has it. But the thing is, they are very aware, they embrace the change. I think this is a call out for all of us to really look into our projects, our programs, and the challenges that we see today, and how can we partner and bring change management right at the beginning. Like I always say that, you have to marry your change management process with your project management, so that the bond is always there. And it's like salt, right? You can only feel its absence. So that's my take.
Thank you very much, Vani. So looks like not only we may use some methods and use them in a repetitive way, but also we can build some center of excellence or even change management office kind of functional group. So it looks like change management could be even a function in the organization, not only individual role. But my takeaway from what you mentioned here, and just maybe the link and the question to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, is how we can utilize those thoughts. For example, maybe for us, it could be the starting point could be, let's ask ourselves a couple of questions for our projects that we implement that we haven't been asking before. And then those questions like, what are we trying to achieve? Who is impacted and how? How are we going to convey the message about why and what's in it for me? Who should do this? What qualities of leadership we need? How we can involve sponsors? So maybe those type of questions will help us to reveal some other dilemmas that we need to resolve, and will help us step by step to go, even if we don't use methodology yet.
I think Vani made a good point, right? Largely, any change is more or less understanding the resistance, because there will be a resistance. And as I say, people say data is the new oil. I say resistance is the data. If you can understand the resistance and convert it into a data to say, where is the resistance stemming from? Is it will, skill, motivation issue? You can have strategies that can help you to manage that resistance in a very structured way, right? And see, this is where I became a big fan when I was a black belt in General Electric. They had a program called Change Acceleration Program, right? It's not about just managing the change, but how do you accelerate change, right? And that's where I realized that putting frameworks, templates, and putting your thoughts on a piece of paper in a structured framework helps you to get clarity, right? Even if you were to look at resistance and classify the resistance into 4 quadrants to say, is it a will issue, skill issue, motivation, or something else? It gives you a much better view to what strategy you need to adopt to make that resistance go away, manage the change more effectively, right? So I, as a passionate believer, feel don't things like change management, it's a science as much as it is an art. Use the frameworks methodology to convert the art into a science, and then use the science to manage it artfully.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking, and there were some thoughts before, that AI is about asking the right questions, but change management is about asking the right questions too. So maybe we can combine those two. So before we conclude, I would like to ask you one more question, and I would kindly ask Ranan to start this about building agility through AI. This is one of the speed, agility is one of the imperatives for GCC and GBS. On the other hand, these are legacy organizations. and there is a huge workload of changes happening at the same time. So how you can use AI to build this agility in the organization?
Yeah, I think this is very, very crucial question what we ask ourselves every day as well, because as someone said in the beginning also that POCs work wonderfully, and then when you put it into a legacy system, it doesn't work. And that's why you have literally stopped working on POCs, because what we do today is like start creating your MVPs, start creating your actual product with the real environment, not like POC in a lab, which sometimes take a lot of assumption. If I just focus on the industry which I belong to, I think I can give you examples of 3 key areas where like AI is giving us transformational results. So number one is like, if you look into the way the future looks like, that we are moving away from a predictable source of energy, which is the diesels and petrols of the world, towards a renewable source of energy, which is the winds and the solars and hydrogens of the world. So it's not still as reliable or as predictable as we have in the diesels and the petrols of the world. So it requires tremendous forecasting system. You have to predict much before when it's going to end. Simple example is like your hybrid cars. So the hybrid cars primarily operate on electricity, but at the same time, it understands when it's running out of energy and it switches to petrol. So similarly, the way we are operating to the world, that when we are providing renewable sources of energy to the customers, we need to be pretty much aware that when there is an unpredictability, today the sun was not out, today there was not much wind, so my production of the renewable energies is much less, and I need to switch to my alternate conventional energies. It requires a robust system. It cannot be achieved manually. So AI has given us that humongous power to collect data continuously from the smart grids, from the different IoT systems, what we have in place. And this is giving us the power to forecast and react much before we get into a situation where like there is a blackout, right? To give you another example is like sustainability is at the core of everything today, what we do. Not only the energy companies, I think everyone. For everyone, sustainability, net zero is one of the biggest things. And if you look into the scale at which energy companies operate, it's a humongous amount of emission, what we are talking about, and it's a humongous amount of tracking needed to really reduce that. And there are mechanisms like automated emission measurement systems, optimized carbon footprint counting. These are embedded in every different mechanisms, which is giving us tremendous power to understand whether things are going wrong and react accordingly. Because these are the things, and if you look into and try to think about the scale, first you think about your own house, that how much energy we consume on a daily basis, starting from the electricity to the gas to the different sources what we use during the day. Then you multiply that by the population of Bangalore, then you multiply that by the population of India, then you multiply that by the whole world. And even today, the whole world, still 30% of the people do not have access to energy. So those 30% still require energy. So that's the scale what we are talking about. And that's the scale of emission what we are talking about. And if we have to capture that emission, net zero is the world in which like we will be equaling the production to the absorption, right? And this requires tremendous amount of technology. And it's so nice to see that AI, obviously we have a long way to go, but in today's context also, we are able to achieve the goals thanks to the different artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, what we are able to use it. So to summarize, definitely the presence of AI is bringing agility to every part of the business to react real time. Because if we are not using that, then it's absolutely impossible to react real time. And by the time we react, some of the things might cause much larger harm.
And taking into account that change management seems to be an enabler for AI, then we have an equation that change management also is a great contributor to agility anyway, ultimately. I would love to ask other great panelists to answer this question, but I need to conclude. And still, I would love to refer to some questions that we received from you, ladies and gentlemen. First, what gaps do we see in leadership models to drive AI-led transformations
or maybe new mindset is required for leaders? What would be your answer to that from GBC JS's perspective? I think, and we all probably have alluded to this in each of our pieces. So one definitely is articulating for the entire organization what the change is and what it means to, go through the change. I think that's number one. I'll flip to a very different angle, something probably I haven't shared in my last pieces. In a GBS or a GCC perspective, and as we are talking AI, many times, it's about, as Gurmeet was mentioning, hey, my team has built a solution and you know what, we're going to implement it and we are the A team, right? But it's important to understand that we all are in it together. The we is a very important aspect. And as a leader, how do you cement that we part of it? That's one. The second thing is, as a GBS and GCC leader, very specifically, it's very important to have your change champions back in the home office, who would be sponsoring and advocating for you when, probably you are not there, and why this is important for the strategic priority of the organization. Why would your overarching global, it could be the board, it could be, your CXOs, but why would it be important for them? And how does it come back to the grassroots level? So it's pretty important. Thank you very much. Please continue. Vani?
Yeah, that's a beautiful point, Kaushik. So from my perspective, I think there's a large part of partner ecosystem that exists when we talk about GCCs or Center of Excellences. I think it's high time that we strategically use their ecosystem wisely, because they are the ones who work with various other organizations. Take it like pharma industry or like manufacturing and things like that. How do we partner with them and see if we can, reuse the solution without reinventing the wheel? I think that is something that we can look at a very crucial aspect. And definitely it's a great value addition. See how the partner organization brings in a lot of value addition, but then do you leverage them as a real collaborator or an extended arm of you, or you still look at them as vendor? If you still look at them as vendor, you don't get anything out of them.
Thank you, Vani. Gurmeet?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Since I underwent this training, I realized there's so much that as a leader you don't know, right? So first figure it out what you don't know. Try and get a little bit more educated to say how AI works in the background, right? Every prompt gets converted into a token. That token gets converted into an embedding. I'm just being a little technical to show off, right? And then there's a cost that is associated with it, right? And most leaders today don't understand the implications behind the scenes on how the AI systems work, right? And everybody believes that this is a magic wand that will solve every problem. All I need to do is to just go and say, hey, use AI, right? Where will AI work? Where will it not work? Where it can optimize, where it cannot optimize at the right cost is a very important understanding that as a leader, you need to be a little bit more aware of, conscious of. So get yourself educated is what I would say is a call out I'll have for everybody who's at a leadership level to understand how this whole environment works in the back end, right? Second is be a facilitator. As we discussed earlier, be seen as a sponsor. Help people remove obstacles, get the fundings where you see a value in the POC, and don't let it just become a free-for-all and loudest voice wins the loudest or the largest investment behind that POC, right? It can't be done that way. You have to be very, very systematic, programmatic about where does the investment goes based upon the business case and the ROI behind it, right? And then make sure the biggest challenge is that it is done ethically and it is done with a governance that will not put your organization at a risk from a data privacy, data security standpoint. If you were to do this, set the vision, make it work, provide the governance, and be the right sponsor, I think you will be able to get there sooner than what you thought it would take for you.
Thank you very much. And Ranan, if you might close.
Yeah, I think all the great points are covered. I would just highlight that for the leaders, I think today we have reached a time where the leaders should be the fastest learner in the organization, because the kind of changes what we are talking about, I think everyone in the organization is looking up to the leaders to see directions, to see clarity. And to do that, I think we have no more option to say that like you first learn, It's rather into the world where, like, as a leader, we have to say that we learn first, and then we understand it, and then we help you build this.
Thank you very much. We run out of time. I still would kindly ask you to think about one sentence you would like to leave our audience with. So I will give you just half a minute for that. And let me share my thoughts, because I think there is a lot that has been said, and these are high caliber things. Not always we may seem to have impact on those areas. So still, I think it would be wise to think about two areas, especially. One is leadership and the other is framework. So how we can invite leaders to be more present and supportive for our projects. Of course, we talk about AI implementations to create the right conditions for the right piloting and the right scaling up, but also how we can use frameworks for that. And frameworks, we can say, this is our responsibility. This is our curiosity. We can ask other people in organizations. For example, in your organizations, especially in Astra, in Shell also, the same. I know I've been working with Shell in Europe, also in Diageo. You have a lot of people that people can come to and ask. I don't know, Kaushik, of course, it's how it is in details in JCPenney, but generally, you have created this ecosystem. So I think maybe we can think to whom we can go first, whom to ask about that. Could it be HR? Could it be PMO? Could it be change management office maybe, or any other place in the organization that could be helpful? So please kindly share one thought, one sentence you would like to leave the audience with. Please do.
Yeah, for me, it is change and learning are the only two constants in this world, right? And change quickly, learn fast, don't depend on lessons learned to learn. Learn very fast. That's what my tagline is. Change and learning are the only two constants.
Thank you. I'll go to the classic. Change leader, change yourself first. Thanks very much.
I think as a technology leader, I'm very, very excited and optimistic about the potential of artificial intelligence, which is going to bring in. I'm going to retire in another 10 years. So my goal is, like, by the time I retire, I should be able to in a position where I don't need to pay for my maids and the chefs and the cooks and the drivers, and everything will be automated, and my savings will be enough for that.
Brilliant, Krzysztof. Thank you very much. And Vani, last but not least.
That was beautiful. So I just want to leave away with one thought, that is, be it change or AI or business transformation is difficult in the beginning and messy in between and gorgeous at the end. This is said by Robin Sharma. So I really resonate to that a lot. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't dare to say anything more beyond that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to pick the last word Vani said. This conversation was gorgeous. Like, seriously, there's so much that I have to learn from this. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation.
Now we'd love for Krzysztof to present a token of gratitude to all the wonderful panelists. Thank you again, all of you. First up, Gurmeet Singh, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Kaushik, for everything. Thank you, Ranan, for giving us all a new buzzword, AI COVID. And thank you, Vani, for being here today.
Big smiles come together. Right? And in Synapse, we need to be together. So, what? Oh, he's got the new perspective ad card now. All right.
A big thank you to all our speakers for sparking such an insightful dialogue. We invite you to take your seats again, and let's keep that applause going as they leave the stage.